We've all heard the term steal like an artist, made famous by the book of the same name by Austin Kleon. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I have read this book because I have not, but I do love what it's about. And I've put a quote here to make it look as if I've done the relevant research, which is just as good as reading it. Isn't it? Creativity is all about connecting dots. And the premise of this book is not about stealing something in its entirety, but stealing many things from many different places to turn them into something new of your own. Now that all sounds lovely in theory, but how do we put it into practice in the design world? Well, that is what I'm going to show you today. So let's show you today. Picasso famously said, "Good artists copy and great artists steal." And David Bowie said, "The only art I'll ever study is stuff that I can steal from." Now, steal is a bit of an evil word that's used more to gain a reaction than anything else, but it essentially means taking inspiration from something rather than direct thievery. But it's nice to hear it from some of the greats like these guys. It's a sort of a comforting reminder that nobody really pulls a great idea completely out of thin air. They take several different things that have inspired them, mash them all together and give them a bit of a remix. And that's really what creativity is all about, taking from many sources, not just one. Now, if you're just getting into the graphic design world, you might not yet have enough of a visual bank of inspiration locked up inside your head, one that you can sort of pull from organically and naturally. You probably need a bit of help. You probably need a bit of a process. And I'm going to give you one today. A process, that is. A process I like to call the thief sheet. A sheet you can use to gather information, pick it apart, and turn it into something new. I've broken this up into 4 stages. Let's go through them. Stage 1 is collect. You're going to become the collector. You're going to gather inspiration from wherever you see it. You're going to take photos of cool things you see when you're out in the real world. You're going to grab cool images you see from books. Remember books? Books are great. And of course, you're going to grab images from things you see online. But for the love of all that is delicious and fattening, don't just go to Instagram and Pinterest. You need to keep things interesting by visiting loads of different websites. I've thrown a load of lesser known sites on the screen to help you shake things up when it comes to digital eye candy. So visit all these sites and grab all the juicy things. But get into the habit of saving things that inspire you. Grab them all and throw them into one big folder, kind of like this one. When you've got a big chunky dose of inspiration, then we can move on. Stage 2, categorize. Now you're going to take that big juicy pile of inspiring images you've got and split them into 5 different categories. 5 categories that completely sum up every fabric of every juicy design. The first category is called the grid. And this is all about composition, layout, just how everything is laid out. Is everything in a nice, neat 12-column grid? Is it maybe asymmetrical? How have they used space versus hierarchy? Every image you see that you just love how everything has been laid out into it goes into this category, the grid. Next one is the type. This is all about typography, typesetting, all of that delicious stuff. Whenever you see a load of letters that make you salivate in an image, you're going to throw them into this section. Next up is the palette. Any images where the color is just the main thing that has grabbed your attention, you're going to throw into this folder. Next up is the concept. Now, this is the big idea behind the image that you grabbed for inspiration, right? So like this one, for example, the image has been turned into a puzzle that you can move about. So it's not necessarily something graphic designy that I like about this, but it's the idea behind it. If it's got a really clever story or idea behind it, not one specific design elements, something that you might want to grab inspiration from later, put it into the concept folder. And then finally, we've got the DNA folder. This is for everything else that doesn't fall into the previous 4. Something about the image you just love. It might be a texture they've used. It might be the way they've mashed up a load of different elements, but you can't quite describe why you love it, but you love it. Like this image for me, there's a transparent background that isn't a transparent background. There are error messages popping up the front. There's a statue. There is a warped image from a Japanese brochure. There's water at the bottom. It's bonkers. I can't tell you why I love it, but I do. So it goes in the DNA folder. Something that makes up the DNA of this image is really compelling. I just can't put it into words. It's going in there. So now that you know these 5 categories and you've got your big old inspiration list, you can start throwing each image into its relevant folder. Every time you see a layout that you love, you throw it into the grid. Every time a piece of typography gives you goosebumps, you throw it into the type folder. Get this to a stage where everything is categorized, and then continue to do this with every new image you find going forward. But at this stage, all of our prep work is done, okay? We've got all of our images categorized into 5 subfolders ready for our next project. And that takes us on to stage 3, combine. Okay, it's project time. You have a job to do, and now you need some inspiration. So for the purposes in this video, I'm going to give myself a fictional project to work on just so I can show you how I'm going to throw things into the thief sheet and turn them into a design. Okay, I've created a fictional company called Binward, and they do scheduled commercial waste collection. Very sexy, right? So I've made up this brief, completely fictional, but stay with me. So background, Binward provides predictive scheduled commercial waste collection for businesses that value reliability, compliance, and operational can. Let's go down to their objective. To create a static advertising poster that communicates one fair idea. The idea is that Binward removes the mental load of waste collection by handling it and predictably scheduling it. The poster should make the viewer feel reassured, understood, and quietly relieved. The key message is essentially you have enough to deal with. Binward will take care of waste collection without needing your attention. The tone of voice should be humorous, direct, reassuring, plain spoken, and avoid boring corporate marketing buzzwords. Okay, so now we're going to use the thief sheet for some visual inspiration for this. All right, I've got my thief sheet on the left. I've got all my inspiration on the right. I'm going to start going through these images to pick out the stuff that I really like the look of. And I'm looking for something in the grid category, first of all, to see just layout-wise what I really, really like. And this one, I adore. You've got one main focal point just floating in a sea of white space inside some lettering. That resonates with me for some reason for this project. I'm sticking that in. Next to type. What typography is going to sex me up? Okay, it's this one. It's this New York poster. Just the tall stretched lettering. I can have a lot of fun with that. Let's throw that into the type. Right, palette wise, I want something simple. Okay, it's got to be this one. Got to be this one. Black and white, one big pop of pink. That's my guy. Concept wise, see, I've already kind of got an idea just by throwing in 3 images there. I've kind of got an idea where I'm going to go with this. Do you know what? I'm going to grab the old shoe in the new shoe. It's an interesting idea. I don't know if I'll do anything with it. I'm just going to stick it there for a minute and see, just see what happens. Right, DNA wise, is there anything else mental that I just want to add on to this? Actually, do you know what? I really love the simple textures in the lettering from this New York poster. So I'm gonna throw that into the DNA folder. I'm gonna use that as a little visual thing on mine. So I've got this to copy layout wise, this New York poster to copy text wise, this one for color because it's great. This one, do you know what? The more I look at these, the more I'm sure the idea I'm going to use, and I'm not going to need that, so I'm going to get rid of it. And then I'm going to use the New York one for textures. And now we're at stage 4, create. I've got a solid idea for this now. I've gone away and grabbed a few assets that I'm going to use for this poster, which I'm going to show you very quickly now. I've got the Binward's logo, which is something I just kind of threw together for the purposes of this fictional project. I'm going to use a headline on this one that says, you have enough shit to worry about. I'm going to use a bin to sort of either act as the I in the word shit. You'll see what I'm digging. And then I've got this line, scheduled waste collection you never have to think about, to just kind of hammer home what this company does. I need a real tall font for this. So I found this one called Crope SX. It's quite thin, but that's fine. I can play around with that. I've got this image of a bin, an image of a crumpled up piece of paper. Both of those things are going to form the I in shit. I've got some gritty textures that I'm going to use to make my lettering look a bit filthy. And of course, I've got my cheat sheet to use as reference. Let's go. Okay, so I'm starting with my bin here, and I want to turn it into a big, old, sexy pink. So I'm just going to grab a solid color. Big, old, vibrant pink. That's the ticket. Throw that on there. Brightness and contrast layer. And I can change the color to color. Mess about with my brightness and contrast sliders. Okay, that's juicy. Oh, that's good enough to lick. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with the big ball of paper. That is looking spanky. Okay, now we're in Illustrator and I have my thief sheet and my new blank canvas beside one another. I'll start by grabbing this crop font that I grabbed earlier and typing out my little tagline. You have enough. Do you know what? I'm going to make this thicker, so I just want it to be spaced apart a bit more so I can fatten up those lines at some stage. All right, you have enough shit to worry about. Excellent. You need to be a lot larger. Right, I'm going to expand this text so I can really start playing around with it. Let's get my bin in place. So, jeez, that's massive. Okay, small. I want to put my bin where the eye is. Work out what space I've got to play around with here. Then drag in my bowl of paper. Plunk it in place. Alright, now I can start spacing these letters out properly. Let's try thickening them up. Gone. Too much? Not enough to... No, that's good. No, that's good. We're going with there. I want that edge to be slightly wider than it is. Lovely. My S to be longer. And thicken up the rest of these letters. And stretch out my T. Do you know what? I want this lot a slight jaunty angle, so I'm just going to shear it. Actually, that's perfect. I'm going to turn some of my letters pink to match that bin. And let's bring in the textures. Let's make it a mask. Pop my texture in there. And I can start playing around with the positioning of this until I get something I like. I like it. And for you. And for you. Right, I need to do something with this bottom space here. I want people to feel calm and reassured, so I'm going to give them the suggestion of a fancy landscape that they're looking out on. Let's just paint in some happy little moments. Look at that. Beautiful. Give them a subtle grey to white gradient. Throw more texture in there. Now I can plunk in that logo I created earlier on. The final little bit of text explaining what we'd actually do. And I think we're good. So we have gone from brief to thief sheet to this. And that, my friends, is how to steal like a graphic designer. We collect, we categorize, we combine, then we create. Now, if you ever, I should say, when you find yourself in a scenario when you have to stick to very strict brand guidelines, then you might just want to use a couple of the options on the thief sheet. You might just want to use the grid. You might just want to use the concept, and the others will already be sorted for you because of the brand guidelines. But you only use the parts of the thief sheet you actually need. You can tailor about with it and play about with it to your heart's content, but use it in a way that's going to serve the project and you best. I've created this thief sheet in a couple of different formats down below, which you can download, play around with, gift them to a relative you dislike, possibly, but feel free to use them and let me know how you get on. And when you're ready to elevate your creativity to almost legend status, then watch this video next, and I'm going to show you the techniques that I use to help me generate endless creative ideas. I'll see you later.